Okay, so tonight we'll be looking at capacity planning and what that means in Agile. Why do we need to plan the capacity? What is the capacity that we're planning? And as a result, we will be covering this few bits tonight. We'll look at the meaning. We'll look at having an understanding of capacity planning, some scope that we need to be aware of. We look at um, data collection. We look at the benefits of capacity planning. We look at some factors that affect capacity planning. We look at how you calculate the team's capacity, and then we look at the location on the Azure board. Okay. So just some few house rules before we start. We know we need to be muted just so we don't affect the recording. Please turn your camera off also, not to distract others. And if you have any questions, please do raise your hand. Adigbero will also be, as the coordinator, will also be my assistant to say, Moji, somebody's hand is open, all that. Or you can note your question down, and then after the session, we will take it. But please feel free to, at any point in time, so that you don't forget your question, stop me or raise your hand when you have a question on anything I'm talking about, and then we'll quickly go back there to clarify it, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, so capacity in a nutshell, in simple term, is just the maximum amount or limits that a thing can hold, or can contain or can produce. And it's either in storage, it's either in production or in capability. Okay, so if you look at the image we have on the left, you have two bottles. And they're both drinking water. Let's assume they're both drinking water. So the one on the light, the small one is 1 liter, and then the big one is 2 liters. Okay, so if you're pouring anything, any substance from the 2 liters into the 1 liter, once it gets to the 1 liter limit, it can't go further. Anything extra that you pour in will just overflow, start pouring down. It won't hold. But with the 1 liter, the 2 liter container can take the 1 liter and still have, capacity to take more, to hold more. So it's just the maximum amount or limits that a thing can hold, a container can hold, or a thing can hold, or a team can hold. And like I said, it could be in storage or in production or capability or the ability that you can hold. That is what, in simple terms, that is what capacity is. So then what is capacity then in Agile or Scrum or for a team? What does it mean? It refers to the total amount of work that a team can handle within a particular sprint. So you have a sprint of 2 weeks. What is the amount of work that this team can handle? What is the amount of work that we can do? How do we gauge the amount of work that we can do? So it's the process of determining the amount of work that a team can accomplish, can achieve. So, earlier on, while we're looking at the board for the team, we can see where we said, what is the goal? What do we want to achieve at the end of these 2 weeks? How do we have the capacity? Do we have the let me just use that word, the capacity to achieve that? Do we have the right amount of people, the right amount of resources, to be able to achieve that goal that we said we want to achieve? Okay. We're able to look at that. And then it helps us to determine what is required, analyze your current capacity, team's capacity, and then that helps you to be informed when you're planning, when you're doing your sprint planning. And the PO says, oh, I want you to take 10 work into the sprint and all that. Because you've planned the capacity prior to the sprint planning, the team is able to negotiate with the PO to say, oh, we don't have enough capacity, we don't have enough resources to be able to do what you want us to do and everything. Then there's the negotiation of reducing the things, the work she wants, she wants the team to achieve based on priority. So she prioritize some and then say, well, let's look at where we are at the end of the sprint, or some few days before the end of the sprint, if we have capacity, to bring more into the sprint. So that's why you need to plan capacity, why you need to plan capacity in the in Agile or Scrum. Okay. So we're just going to quickly use the example of this bakery, okay, just to drive the point home, to give us an overview before we go into the, I won't call it technical bit, yeah, but at least this gives us an idea, an overview, and a better understanding of what we're talking about. Okay, so this is a bakery, and the bakery's pastry output in a day is 20 trolleys. Okay, so they in a day they are able to produce 20 trolleys of pastries, and the bakery has 10 staff. Okay, so with 20 trolleys, 10 staff, we're looking at one person's output is 2 trolleys, isn't it? Now let's assume that this bakery has looked at that okay, we get 20 trolleys out, you know, every day we get 20 trolleys out, and as a result they deliver to 10 stores. They have clients, and those clients are 10. They have 10 stores that they deliver pastries to. So on an average we can say that 2 trolleys goes to a store, isn't it, or thereabout, depending on the capacity. No, depending on how big, I don't want to use the word capacity again, depending on how big a store is. So one store might take 2 trolleys, one store might take 2.5 trolleys, another store can take 1 trolley, another. But at least for all the because of the past productions they've had, they are able to gauge that averagely, at least a store should get 2 trolleys. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so in this, let's now look at a scenario where 2 staffs did not turn up for work, and there was no prior notice. They didn't tell the, I don't know if the for pastries chef now, that they are not going to turn, they're not coming to work. They didn't give, there was no prior notice. The day was there and they just didn't turn up, they're not picking up their phone and all that. That definitely is going to affect the daily outreach. Okay. Because then the daily outreach, based on the fact that we said one person's outreach is 2 trolleys and 2 staffs are not coming in, that means we're going to get 16 trolleys at the end of that day. Okay, and then that means some stores are going to be affected. Some stores are going to be impacted. They won't get, either they won't get the number of pastries they normally get from this chef, which their customers are used to. Yeah. And they just, it's morning, they've gone to collect, or maybe it's the bakery that brings it over and everything. There is no prior warning to those stores that won't get, or all the stores might get limited amounts to what they're used to, because there were no prior notice from the staffs that they're not going to come. It could be an emergency, don't get me wrong, but at least there were no prior notice. So the chef didn't put any plan in place, either to notify the stores that, oh, you might get lower quantity because we have resource issue and all that, or to go to, I don't know if he has an agency where he can get bakers and all that, to get temporary staffs to come in to cover for those 2 that are not going to be around, in order for them to still meet their daily goal of 20 trolleys. Okay, so that's just in a nutshell what having planning the capacity, that is in a nutshell what it is, using this bakery example. So just like I said, to give us that, if I can use the word layman or simple understanding of what capacity means, the impact that capacity can have with what you're doing if it is not well planned, and if it is not well planned, so to say, prior to what you need to achieve in a sprint. In their own case, we're saying daily goal. It could be the sprint goal when it comes to a development team. Okay, so having that understanding, we also now want to have some few understanding for capacity planning. Okay, so for capacity planning, team's capacity is based on the team's productive hours. Okay, so let me quickly use the example of the bakery again. So a productive hours for a bakery would, the bakers in the bakery will be the time when they're actually baking. Okay, not the time when we're just sitting and gisting, or the chef is having a meeting with them to say, oh, we have to have our monthly meeting and this and that and everything. Oh, I think this person needs to, be upskilled and all that. Remember, they've clocked in, they're in the organization already. They're inside their workplace, so to say, but they are not productively making bread. They are not kneading the dough. They are not greasing the palm. Everything that relates to baking is not being carried out. So in a situation, everything that is relating to baking is being carried out. That is what is termed as productive. Okay, so productive in this sense then doesn't mean that any other thing they're doing is unproductive. It's still productive, but it's not actually carrying out so to say development or testing. That is the productive hours that is being talked about. So when you're talking about a team's capacity, you're talking about that productive hours, time they spent doing coding, programming, or testing. That is what is referred to as their productive hours. Okay. Then capacity is planned also based on a team member's availability. Okay. So you don't plan capacity based on somebody saying, oh, just don't worry, just put 2 weeks there and everything, even when the person knows that for every day of those 2 weeks, those 10 days, they're not going to be around. Okay, so it's based on availability. And as we go along, you will understand what I meant by that. Okay, and it has to be done 2 to 3 days before the sprint planning, because you need to know the team's capacity for the sprint you're going into. So you can't plan the capacity after the sprint planning, or else you might undercommit or you overcommit. Okay, so you have to plan it 2 or 3 days before sprint planning. So before sprint planning, as a scrum masters and APM, you know the capacity of the team already. And like I said, by the time you're now having sprint planning and the product owner is bringing so much to say, oh, this is what we want to cover, and you're able to negotiate to say, oh, we don't have a full capacity, so we might not be able to finish that thing you want us to do and everything like that. Okay, so it has to be done prior to that, and then consideration has to be given to team members status. So there are times when you have members who are full team members, they are part of your team, they are a full 100% resource for your project. And then there are times also when you have borrowed resource. Remember when we're using the bakery, I made mention of getting temporary staff to come and cover. So there are times, depending on what is being developed and how critical it is, timeline, if it's going to impact a particular timeline, and you have team members that are not available, there's every possibility that you can get a borrowed resource. So when you get a borrowed resource, what it means is that you have somebody who knows about your project, who's maybe worked on the project before and now being moved to another project. Somebody you can negotiate with their own team to say, or their own scrum master or team leader to say, oh, can this person come in on a borrowed capacity in order to work for us? So that person is not going to, you are not going to get 100% from that person, because they're still going to work on their own project. So you're going to negotiate and agree with the other scrum master where they're working to say, oh, what capacity can we get for this person? If they're not doing anything that uh uh critical, or that if they don't have that much to do in the other team, the scrum master can say, oh, no problem, I can give them 60% of their capacity to come and use with you, and then they use 40 with us, or vice versa, or they share them. They have a full percentage, that means they have it, and it comes on here 50%, and then other side also 50%. So that's why I said that consideration has to be given to the team member status. Okay, so if you have a borrowed resource, you can't give somebody that is a borrowed resource the same amount of work to do that a full team member is doing, because they don't have full 100% capacity to work on your project. So consideration has to be given to that. And then also, a team's capacity is an estimate of a future activity. That sprint has not happened. So with the planning you're planning, you're not planning for a sprint that has passed, or the sprint that you're in that is going on. You're planning for the next sprint. Okay, so it's an estimate. So if I say that, oh, I'm going to be available for the whole 10 days, yeah, I'm committed, my capacity, I'm giving my full capacity. Anything can happen. I can have an emergency, that makes me need to leave work. A team member can fall sick at any time and all that. So even if when you're using the capacity to plan, you still need to put that buffer in, the buffer of the unknown. You still need to put it in. So you don't want to be tight with things whereby when one person has an emergency and they are not available and things like that, it becomes an overwhelming thing for the others to try and finish everything. Okay. So you just put this buffer in. So it's an estimate. That was what I said, is an estimate. It's something for the next sprint. Okay. And while you have your capacity measures, like I said, if a future activity, while your velocity measures the past activity. Now your velocity, if we use the bakery example, their velocity is 20 trolleys a day, and that's based on an output they've had in the past. So they know that when all 10 of us work, we're able to get out 20 trolleys. And so for an agile team also, they're looking at when we have full capacity, we're able to do an average of our average velocity is so let's assume their average velocity when they're at full capacity is 100, and that 100 is based on their effort, which is their story point. So when you're going into a sprint and the PO is looking at it and say, oh, well, their average velocity is 100, so in as much as I've put anything that has a total of 100, they should be able to do it. When you don't have a full capacity, that's where you negotiate with the PO that, okay, yeah, our average velocity the last time was 100, but now we don't have, and that was when we were on the full capacity. Now we have average capacity is summer, people have gone on holiday with their family. I have just 50, half capacity of them. There is no way we're going to be able to do 100 story point. It's not possible, and you negotiate that with the PO. So you would drop it to either 50 or 45. Remember the buffer? You drop it down to either 50 or 45, and then it's left for the PO to look at a total of 45 or 50 story points based on priority stories that they need to work on, so that the team is not overwhelmed with work. Because when you overwhelm them, they get under pressure, there'll be mistakes, there'll be bugs raised, even testers might miss bugs and everything, and you don't want those to seep into production if it's a team that releases every sprint. Even if they don't release every sprint, you don't want to do a demo review to the stakeholders and they are seeing those little mistakes. It will be really bad for the team. Okay, so all these things are the things that would affect the seamless way or workflow that the team needs to work during the sprint, and you want to, deal with that earlier on time. Okay, so and having said that, there's this saying that you use this, which is capacity that you might have to achieve the work that you want to do, which is the sprint goal, based on our past performance. That's our velocity. Just use the bakery to have that understanding that they want to use okay. So if those two people have told like I said, the baker or the chef that they're not going to come with booking, taking holiday off and all that, two things that they can do is, number one is to prepare the stores that are getting it to say, okay, so the output you will get will need to be reduced because of one reason or the other, which is the PO, negotiating that with the PO to say we need to reduce what goes in because we have less capacity. Or if it is a critical thing that needs to go out, those stories needs to go out because there's a timeline for them, that the end users need them and all that. You're looking at getting borrowed resources so that you're still able to achieve the work that needs to be done at the end of that sprint, achieve the goal at the end of that sprint. So these are some few things we need to understand when it comes to capacity planning. Okay, so how do we gather all those information? How do we gather the data for the team? So I'll say for definitely for a team that maybe they've just started, they're not aware of what capacity, is all about, is a new team, like the ones you have, you would definitely as a scrum master need to coach your team about what capacity means. So you can't just say, "Oh, I need to know your capacity." They will wonder, what does that mean? What are you saying and everything? So you want to have a meeting with them, give them a brief understanding of what it means, and then be able to collate that information. And the information that you're collating from them is to know what days are you off, what days are you on training, anybody taking, holiday, anybody taking partial day off, anybody taking a full day off. You want to know all those informations, and you're recording it somewhere, because that is what you're going to use to plan the capacity, which we will have a sample to go through later on, so that we're able to see what we're talking about. So you can use that together. Now, having done that the first or the second time, you have a team now that understands what capacity is all about and how it impacts, your team and everything. And then you're able now to have, you can create an Excel spreadsheet as a template, and then put it on OneDrive, whereby every team member now, because they have an understanding, are able to go into that spreadsheet and just, update it. You definitely will have an agreement to say, okay, use the dark brown color for when you're on holiday, use maybe a light blue for when you're on training, and things like that. So you color code it so that when you're looking at it, oh, this person is going on holiday for 2 weeks and things like that and everything. So they're able to self-manage, go into that document themselves, and then just, input when they are on holiday into it and all that. There are times when you need to remind them. Remember, we're talking about people doing their own work, engineers coding, doing programming and everything. So don't expect them that they might remember. There are times when they will forget, but definitely maybe during stand up, if you know, okay, the next 2 days I'm going to do the capacity planning, 2 days prior to that, at stand up, maybe once they finish stand up, before you go, just tell them, oh, please don't forget to, update the holiday spreadsheet if you're taking holiday over. And then that's when you remember, oh my God, yeah, I've not put my holiday on that and everything. And they're able to do that. Also, they can put the holidays on their calendar, and then you might be the one to fill up the spreadsheet. So that means, as the scrum master, when they're notifying everyone on their calendar, you're one of the people they're notifying, so that on your own calendar also, you will get the notification of when team members are going to be on holiday. And then you can use that, to complete the spreadsheet. But really, it would be good also to teach them how to self-manage to do that. But the nudging, the reminder has to come from you. Like I said, you're the one teaching them the best practice. So until they get used to doing it and all that, you need to be reminded. There are times when even Scrum Masters themselves forget to tell their team members that they are going on holiday. So that shows you that there are times when you so much get into other responsibilities that you have, that you forget other things that you need to do. So you can understand where you needing to remind them at times comes into the situation. Even when you forget that the stand up is over, and you remember, oh my God, I didn't remind them and all that. You have your team's channel there and all that. Just put it there that, guys, please remember to, you know, do this and that. And you want to keep that spreadsheet in a centralized location that everybody can get to. So you've shared the link 2 weeks ago and all that. Definitely they can't keep scrolling back 2 weeks ago to go and look for the link and all that. But if it's put in the files, just tell them it's in the file. So at the top of the your team's channel, the chat, they're able to click there, they find it there, they just click on it, they open it, put what they need to put. And that's why it's good for you to be on OneDrive. So it's a live document. So you don't need to be saving it and all that. They just update it, and it's going on. And then that's there for you. That's what you look at in order for you to plan the capacity that we're talking about. And the last one is just for you to collect the data, just train your team. So the putting it in, like we said, reminding them and everything is part of you telling them the importance of planning, the impact it will have if it is not done. Okay. So, having done that, we want to quickly look at some benefits. What are some benefits that planning the team's capacity? What are the benefits that you get from it? Why is it important for us to do it? The first one is better sprint planning. I think I've explained that enough. When you have the capacity, you are able to plan better. You know accurately the work that the teams can commit to because you have your capacity. Yeah, and then you won't have to overcommit. That's when you have too much to do because you don't know the team's capacity, you don't know who is going on holiday or not. You just assume that you have a full capacity and all that, and as a result, you're looking at, oh, when we're full capacity, we did 100. Yeah, let's just take 100 in and all that. That is you not supporting or guiding the team properly in order for them to do the right thing. Remember, you are the one that understands the process. You're the one that understands the best practice, and you want to guide the team to ensure that you're supporting them to do that so that they don't, like I said, overwhelm themselves. And at the same time, you don't want them to undercommit. Undercommitting is such a way that they take so little in and they just have capacity in their hand at the end of the sprint or even before the end of the sprint where they are not really doing anything, so to say. Yeah, so it's that's one of the benefits of capacity planning. Another one is that it improves commitment reliability. So over time, with team members' commitments, you get it improves and it's reliable. So for instance, you know that okay, A normally once it's summertime takes the first 4 weeks of summer holiday because they have maybe little children, they take their children on holiday and all that and everything. You know that person's skill set, you know the kind of work that can come into the sprint during that time because you know what they can do. If it's a senior developer and engineer and everything, you know the kind of negotiation you can do with the product owner. At the same time, also because the product owner knows that this person, even though they are skilled in this particular thing and all that, and they'll be on holiday at so time and everything. Do you want to bring that particular work item in prior to that time so that it is dealt with by that person before they go on holiday? Or do you want them also allow the tech lead to be aware and then to upskill another team member? Yeah, so that when this person is not on holiday, another team member is there to do it. Another thing you want to look at, another reliability it gives you is a situation where you have maybe two team members or three team members who are good with C sharp and all that. You want to ensure that they don't go on holiday at the same time. So by the time you know their holiday plans and everything and all that, you're able to plan better. Okay, you have that commitment reliability. It improves it as it goes along, and then it helps you also to plan ahead. It also controls scope creep. Scope creep is when you have additional work in the sprint that you were not initially planned. So during the sprint planning, these are works that you didn't initially plan. So there are times when the PO, the product owner can come and said, okay, so this particular study we need to do it. Maybe there's an issue on prod. When I say prod, I mean on the live website and it needs to be dealt with and all that. It could be that, it could be that the end users or the stakeholders have changed something slightly. Any unplanned work that comes into the sprint is what we refer to as scope creep. And when you plan the capacity, you're able to negotiate that, with the PO because you are aware of the capacity. You're able to negotiate that to say, okay, if it's priority, if we need to take this in, is there something of less priority that we can remove because we can't do more than this? Okay, we can't do more than this. So we can remove any other thing or anything of less priority in order for us to accommodate this that you're bringing in if it takes priority over, other things that we're doing. So you're able to control that just increase of work that is coming into the sprint when you have the capacity in place. And then there's better allocation of tasks, which I've already explained. When you have a borrowed resources or you have a team member that is just going to be around for 1 week, you can't give them work to do. There are times when team leads allocates work to team members once they know that, oh, this person just have 1 week to spend and all that. They don't assign work to them uh at the same rate at which they were assigned to somebody that is going to be there for the whole 10 days. And at the same time, when you notice somebody that is going to be off in the next 1 week, maybe it's just going to spend the first week and then the second week, they're going on holiday, picking up too much work. Also, you want to highlight it if the team lead is not aware of it, to say, hey, this person is going on holiday, he's picked 2 or 3 and all that, which is going to assign to somebody else to do when when he's off next week and all that. Can't he just concentrate on the first 2 that he has picked, ensure that he's finished those ones, and then if he's able to do just maybe one more before he leaves, that's better than having maybe 4 that he's not going to finish before he leaves. So it helps you to allocate tasks better to your team members, and also to help them also streamline the things they are picking, especially the ones that maybe might end up going on holiday. So these are some of the benefits that you get from planning your team's capacity. Okay, so we want to look at some few things that affects that planning when you're doing it. When you're planning it, some few things. So the first one is the default distribution. The default distribution is the standard hours that you're expected to work as an employee in an organization. So you've been employed 9 to 5. So that's you 7 hours. I've taken out the 1 hour break, or else I would have said 8 hours, but it's 7 hours because you get a 1 hour break. Okay, so that is the default distribution, okay, of your of a team member's capacity. You have that is called a default distribution. Another factor that can affect the planning is the Scrum event time. Okay, so the Scrum event time are the hours you spend for your Scrum ceremony, sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective, sprint refinement, and all that. So they are not categorized as the productive hours because the developer is not coding at that time. Yeah, so those meetings are important, they are productive, they add value to what we need to do, but they are not the time you spend actually testing for a QA, or the time the developer spent actually developing, coding. So those are some of the factors also that affect your capacity planning, and we'll see how they affect it because we're going to do an exercise later on. And then you have other meetings and other factors. Other meetings include maybe trainings that needs to be done, ad hoc meetings that you need to have, three amigo meetings that you need to have. You need more clarity, a subject matter expertise is brought in to give a better understanding of what we're talking about and everything. You need to meet with other teams. When you're planning release, you need to meet with other teams, the infrastructure, the IT team, for performance sake or anything. But any other meetings that is outside your Scrum event or your Scrum ceremonies are other meetings, and also they have their own effect also. There are times when an organization starts upgrade their system, and they want people to go on training for that system. There are a lot of compliance meetings that you need to go to, cybersecurity meetings that they're mandatory trainings that you need to do. And it's still part of the time, that you are in the organization. You don't use your weekends to go and do all that. It's still between the 9 to 5 that you're at work that you're supposed to do all this training. And so those are factors also that comes into it. And then you're looking at team holidays. So when you talk about team holidays, we're talking about general holidays that affect everybody. We're talking about bank holidays, okay? Everybody enjoys it. It's not just some people, it's given by everyone when it's given and where it's given. So those are termed as team holiday. And then you have the individual full day off. Those are the days, the annual leave that team members do take off. So we have the full day one, which means the whole day the person is not around. And then you have the individual partial day. So it could be the person is off in the morning, or they're going to be off in the afternoon. Those ones are the partial day off that we're talking about, when they're almost half of the day or thereabout, not in the office or not working or not being around, maybe because they have hospital appointment or things like that. So they're taking the AM off, it could be the PM off and all that. Those are the individual partial day off that we're talking about. And then we look at also the focus factor. So the focus factor is the team's capability to remain focused on the sprint goal. So that's the factor that calculates the productivity. It enables the team to calculate the productivity we're talking about, that they need to be product time. That is the focus factor. That is when they are working on the sprint goal without distraction, without any meetings, without any discussion, without any training and all that. That is the focus factor. And all these affect how the affect your planning of the team's capacity. Okay, quickly, we're going to look at how each and every one of these factors affects a planning. So we're going to do a planning, and then we're going to start picking one of them, each one of them, and see how it affects what we have. So we're going to start off with the default distribution. Okay. So first we want to look at the sprint duration. So we have a 10 days. So that's the first step for us. I've just used the 2 weeks starting from this week and next week to do this exercise that we want to look at. So we're looking at this 10 days. So you start your sprint, and then you have your 10 days. Okay. And then after your 10 days, you're looking at this. The step 2 is to have the names of your team members and their roles. Now, when you're planning capacity, you plan capacity for the developers and the testers. And why we're doing that is because they are the ones that are actually carrying out development work. Remember, your BAs, they've written the story. So they've written the requirements, they've written the acceptance criteria that the developer and the testers need to follow. The developer to do the coding to build it, and then the testers to test and validate what has been done, to validate that what is in the acceptance criteria is what the developers have developed. So the people that you are getting their capacity is the developers and the testers, not the BA, not you, the Scrum Master, because you guide the team, in the process, but you don't actually develop. Now, permit me to say also that in some organization, data analysts are seen also as developers, okay? Because they also, in their analyzing and all that, they are also carrying out kind of development work, so to say. So they can be seen also as developers also, okay? So we have these team members here. We have the 7 of them. We have 4 developers and we have 2 testers. Okay, so when we're looking at the distribution factor, you have them, they have, and if you look at it from John to Gerard, we have 100% allocation. So those are the full team members. Agatha is coming in as a borrowed resource, and that's why we have her at 50%. Okay, so at the end you have 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, and then you have 4 hours for Agatha. And then at the end of, if you, that is when you're calculating their hours per day. And when you calculate their hours per sprint, you have 80, because there's 10 days in a sprint, isn't it? So the 8 times 10 will give you 80. Okay. And then at the total per day, you have, for all of them, you have 52 hours. And then per sprint, you have, for all of them, for hours, you have 520 hours for the whole sprint for all of them. So if everyone by distribution, we're supposed to have 520 hours of the team members' capacity. Okay, now let's see how those factors can affect that 520 that we have. So this is the 10 days that we have. We've put it all there. You can see each day, and then you have the 520 at the end. Okay, for all of them, like we've said. And for Agatha, remember, she's half, because she's a borrowed resource. So we have 4 hours for her per day for this particular team and this particular project. And then we want to look at a situation where on the 28th of October happens to be a bank holiday. So that is a team holiday. So everybody gets that day off. So why we have 0 there is because nobody's working. There's no productive work being done on that particular day because nobody's in the office. Everybody's in their home enjoying, the day with their family, enjoying the day, doing whatever they want to do. So we have 0 there. Now from 520, you can see the total coming down to 460 because we've taken 8 hours out of everybody's day and 4 hours from Agatha, who is a borrowed resource. So it's come down to 460 from what we have before. Okay, so going ahead also, if we look at the Michael on the 22nd, Michael is taking a half day, a partial day off. On the second day of the sprint, you can see 4 there for Michael in yellow. And then, okay, so let me just use my cursor so that can use that to explain. So you can see Michael there has taken 4 hours off. So he's going to just be 4 hours working. And then James has taken um a whole day off there, okay, before the bank holiday and also after the bank holiday. He's taking 2 days off for that particular sprint. And then if you go down to Chris also has taken another 4 day off on the ninth day of the sprint. So he has the whole 8 hours here and another 4 hours here. And then also, if you go down to Agatha, who is a borrowed resource, she also has taken 4 days off here. So you can see that that also, by the time we now look at the total, is affected things going down, okay, because of those days that has been taken off. Okay, so having said that, yeah, this is just a duplication of that one. So we now want to look at how the Scrum event time also, we need to calculate the total of the Scrum event time because that also needs to be deducted from that total that we have. So the team have their refinements twice in the sprint. They have it on this day, which is a Thursday before the end of the week. On the Thursday they use 1 hour to do refinement towards the next the next sprint they're going into, and then they also have it on this Thursday again. So this is 60 minutes, there's another 60 minutes, 1 hour, and you can see the total that have been taken off of refinement is 120 minutes, which is 2 hours. And then sprint planning, at the start of sprint they have sprint planning for 2 hours there, and we need to put that one there also in total in hours, total in minutes. And then the daily scrum is 15 minutes every day, apart from the day when it's bank holiday, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, so you have that as 135 minutes, and then that's a 2.25 hours total. And the review, when they meet with the stakeholders to do review, you have another 2 hours at the end of sprint, and that is factored in also. You have another 2 hours there. And then on retro, could be the same day, could be the day after review, you'll have another 1 hour where you have a retrospective, and that is factored in also. So if you look at the total hours for Scrum ceremonies, is 9.25 hours. Okay. So how does that affect things for us? So before we look at how that affects things for us, we also want to look at other meetings. So for this thing, because they are new, there are some things that the Scrum Masters need to coach them on, which it doesn't need to, it's not fixed. Okay, so quickly, if I just quickly go back, for the Scrum event, these ones are fixed factors. Okay, so we have this meeting no matter what. It happens every sprint. But for the other meetings, it varies. It's not all the time that you coach them. So let's assume that there is a coaching that falls in this sprint. There is a 2 hours coaching session that the Scrum Masters need to have with the team, and it's booked that into the first Friday of the sprint. You could see that there. That's a 2 hours, and then there is maybe other training, upskilling trainings that either the developers need to go for or the KOs need to go for. That also has been factored in by their own line manager, which they need to go for. It's to help them to upskill. They need that training, and that has been fixed into that also, and that's another 2 hours. So you have another total of 4 hours. So for the Scrum event, we know we have 9.25 hours, and then for the other meetings we have 4 hours in total. Okay, so if we go now to our chart, you'll know that this is what we have for the sprint. After we've removed all the bank holidays, half day off, full day off, this was what we have. We had 432. Okay, so we now need to remove the total for the Scrum event and the total for the other meetings. We need to remove it from that total to know what we have left. So if you remove that from each and every one of them, it's not everybody that has the same sprint hours. So these hours you have there is the total hours for each person for the sprint, based on the days that they've taken off or the half days they've taken off, and then based also on the um team holiday, which is the bank holiday that they have. And by the time you deduct that, what you have here is now come down to 339.25 hours. And how we get the available capacity is you deduct the Scrum event hours and the other meeting hours from their sprint hours. And that's what you have. That's the formula you have here. So that's available capacity is equals to the sprint hours, which is this hour, minus the Scrum event and the other meetings. Okay, so when we add these and these together, you have 13.25. And then when you deduct 13.25 from each of all these that you have here, this is what it comes to. Even if you use the total also, that's what you're still going to get. Okay, so now you have their available capacity. After removing the Scrum event time and the other meeting times, you have their available capacity here. Okay, so it gets more interesting as we go as we go along. So we're coming back here because now we now need to look at the focus factor, which is, to get now what you want to get now is their real capacity. So available capacity doesn't mean, oh, then this is the available capacity we have. We want to know the real capacity, and we need to put in the focus factor in order for us to, get to the real capacity. Okay. So we've looked at the deductions that has been made, which is what we have in this previous print, the available capacity we have here. So what this next chart is just doing is just expanding things more for us to say, for us to get this available capacity, what we've done is to deduct this Scrum ceremony and the other meetings from the sprint hours in order for us to get this. And because this is what we need to use with the focus factor to work out what the real capacity is. So the formula for you to work out the focus factor itself, yeah, this 74%, how did we come by the 74% is the team's available capacity. You have to divide, which is this one. You have to divide it by the team's standard hours, and then you multiply by 100. Okay, so what we have here would explain for us. So if we pick John, yeah, if we use John, John has 58.75. So is you could just approximate it to 59. You approximate it to 59 because it's 78.75, which is almost 17, sorry, 59. You divide that by the 80 hours. The 80 hours is the default time. That is the standard time that they've been employed. And then you multiply by 100. And when you do that, what you will get is 73.75% now, which is approximately again 74. And you now have 74 here. So I know everybody is wondering, okay, so why 74 for everybody if we're using John's own um uh to do the working? Now, remember that John is the only one that didn't take any day off. Apart from his 72 here that you see here is just the bank holiday, which affects everybody anyway. And that's not his fault. It has nothing to do with his holiday. Okay. So if that bank holiday has not been there, he didn't take any day off. Gerard also didn't take any day off, and that's why we're using that. So it's not as if, oh, you're using John to judge. We're not using John to judge. We've just looked at the 80 hours they've had, removed the 8 hours of the bank holiday, and we have 72 left. And we've used that 72 for everybody. Everybody. We're not looking at, oh, but James took some time off and everything. That's his own time that is taken off. So the focus factor has to be fixed for every team member. Okay. And then, so that's how we get the 74, but it applies to everyone. Either you're taking days off, you don't take days off and all that. That applies to everybody. And then for us to now work out what the real capacity is the formula for the real capacity now is your available capacity times your focus factor. This is your available capacity, multiply it by 74%, you will get your real capacity here. So for this team that when we started had 522, at the end of the calculation, what they really have is 251 approximately hours for the sprint. So you can see that those few days that were taken by all the other team members affected what they had to use. Now let's look at the team that didn't take any day off, didn't have any, there was no bank holiday and no team members took time off. So we're looking at a situation where we have full capacity for that sprint. You're still going to factor in the Scrum events. You're still going to factor in the other meetings. And that's why we have 80 for everyone here. So what we're saying is, and 40 for Agatha, who is borrowed. So what we're saying is there was no bank holiday. There was nobody taking time off. We just need to deduct this Scrum ceremony time and other meetings time from this 80 that we have, and then we have a 66.75. And then if you use the formula, like we said, to do it, to work it out again, this 66.75 becomes approximately 67 divided by the 80 times 100. And then that gives you 83.75, which is roughly 84 for everyone. And you can see that that comes to 358.89. So even though they didn't take any time off, you can't base their capacity on this 520, because this meeting comes in, and you need to factor those in to know what the capacity of your team is. So for this particular team, their full capacity, their full capacity is 358 hours, or approximately 359 hours. Yeah, that is their full capacity per sprint. This is their capacity per day. That's their full capacity. Okay, not the 520, because like I said, we need to factor all this in when we're doing that capacity planning out. Okay, so for if in a situation where your team has a full capacity, you can look at it and you can see that per day each team member has a 5.6. So you can say approximately everybody has a 6. So that's 6 times. So if you do 6 times 7, that will give you 42. So you can say, oh, per day my team has 42 hours, to work. And then if you multiply that by the number of sprints that you have, that 42 comes to 420, not the 520 now, 420. And then you can use that to plan. So in the situation where you have 420, and then you go into another sprint, and half of your team members are off. So your 420, you just divide by 2 to say, oh, this is the capacity for the team. So if they are at that capacity, there is no way we can do what we did when we were at full capacity. That is how you calculate your capacity. That is, and we talked about, when we're looking at the benefits, we talked about reliability, helping you to understand and have kind of a proven reliability. So the first one you do might not be perfect, but as time goes on, you find you have a pattern. So when my team members when I have 3/4 team members, what do we normally how many what is the average velocity of work that we do? You will know it. You will know what you do at full capacity. You will know what you do at half capacity. So that as time goes on and you have, which you definitely, as year goes on, you will keep having the same Christmas period, people will take time off. What do I have? Do I have half team members? Do I have 3/4 team members? Oh, that means then that this is the amount of work we can do. And even having said that, that no particular sprint is the same. So the complexity of what you take in at this sprint might not be the same of complexity that you're going to take in the next sprint, which your story point will reflect anyway. And then you're going to use that going further to also plan when you're doing your planning. That's why having all this information before your sprint planning goes a long way, because it helps you, to determine if you achieve your sprint planning or not. And there are times when even during sprint planning, there are some things, during the sprint, there are some things that comes up. That's why your daily stand-up is there, so that any unforeseen that anything we didn't foresee during the planning or before the planning comes up during the meeting, our daily stand-up is there for us to be able to jump on a meeting, plan. That's why it's agile. That's why there's agility. You respond to change. You respond to any change that comes in. You're able to plan. That's why you have your daily stand-up. So your daily stand-up is not just for you to give updates of, oh, I did this yesterday, I did this today, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, it's part of that. But also when you have new things coming in, changes coming in and all that, you're able to use that meeting to plan. And other meetings that you use is, let's assume that this thing comes up after your daily stand up, and you can't wait till the next daily stand up. You need to plan. You need to plan. You can have ad hoc meetings. You can call if it's everybody that you need. Don't call everybody into a meeting if you don't need all of them. Okay, so let's be lean. Let's plan. Let's do lean agile. So you don't have to bring anybody. You don't have to make everybody stop what they're doing. If the team lead feels that, okay, I just need either one senior engineer or two senior engineer, or these are the people that are working on this particular thing that needs change, that will be affected. They are the ones that you want to call into that meeting, the ad hoc meeting, have that meeting with them, do what they need to do. But this is how you do your sprint planning, and it helps you to plan, and it helps you also to know how to take work into the sprint, know how to work. It helps your workflow, and then it makes work a bit seamless for you if you don't overload the sprint with work, because you've planned things properly. Okay, so when you go into your board, when you go into your sprint board, your capacity page is in your sprint board. Okay, so when you go into your sprint board, this is your capacity page. After the task board, after the backlog, you have the capacity page. That's the place, if you joined at the beginning of this session, where Adigbenro was removing people that are not part of the team. Okay, so that's part of why we need to do it. So when you come here, you can see all those people here. You have the days off. You can see the days off there. You have where you have 0 over here. So if anybody is taking any day off, this is where you come on, you click on it, you put the day that they are taking off. If it's 1 day, if it's 2 days, you're able to see the calendar when you click on this, and then you note those days, and it automatically just calculates it. And then you have the team's days off here, and that is the one for the bank holiday. So you can see this applies to the whole team. You're able to put it there also. So when it's Christmas time, you know that 25, if sorry, 25 and 26 falls on a weekday, it's 2 days you're taking away from there. If the Christmas week and the New Year's week falls on the same sprint, you're taking about maybe 3 days or even 4 days at times of as bank holiday, depending on where it falls in the calendar, and that not automatically calculates. Now, you're not coming here to look at per person capacity per day. Where we're talking. So quickly, I'm just gonna take this back to where we have, if we didn't take any time off, yeah, the capacity per day will be 5.6, which we said approximately 6. Okay, so if we come here to our board and we put 6 for everybody here, remember developers and testers though, we put 6 here, so the capacity per day based on what you've worked, and over time also, we know that the capacity is 6. You've put it there. Now don't think, oh, but I've put 6 there, but Abimbola is taking some days off. Remember that you will have put the days she's taking off here. So Azure Body is able to automatically calculate by deducting any days that have been taken off here, half day, full day, any days that have been taken off here. Azure DevOps is able to calculate it based on what you have here. So if everybody puts down 6 here and nobody puts any days here and all that, it will calculate the total based on your sprint, because you will have the date definitely set. So you will look at the days, know the number of days that sprint is, look at the capacity per day, look at the number of people that has been registered there for capacity per day. So if here you will put the activity of everyone. So if Abimbola is a developer, you will click on this drop down, and then you're able to put developer there. You're able to put development, I think is there. If Bolu is a BA, you're able to put requirements there, because the requirement is what you set for BA. So you know that when you're putting the hours here, you don't put anything for Bolu because she's requirement, she's not a developer. If Deji is a tester, you're able to put testing there. So based on the activity, you're able to calculate the capacity. Now, you might be wondering, oh, but you've put 0 for Bolu as a BA. Does that mean Bolu didn't do anything during the sprint? Remember that in every organization you have your timesheet. Some, it depends, it's when you're touching and all that, they register when you come in and things like that and everything. So this is not for HR, this is for us planning work for the team members to do. So even though we've put 0 for Bolu, doesn't necessarily mean that, does that mean Bolu is not working? He's not doing any hours per day. We know Bolu is at work. We know she's working. HR knows that. It's not meant for us to know that. But this is calculating, excuse me, development work being done. Okay. So because a lot of people will ask that question, does that mean the Scrum Master is not doing anything? Does that mean the BA is not doing? It doesn't mean they're not doing anything. This just means that they're not doing um they are not actively participating in development work. So they are participating in it, but they're not coding and they're not developing and they're not testing. That's what that means. Okay. So this is where you'll find it on the board. So you go on your project board, you go on the sprint board, and then at the top you click on capacity, and that's what brings you to this page in order for you to populate this page. And on your dashboard, there is a particular sprint burn down chart that reflects whatever you've put here. It calculates based on whatever we've put here, which we will look at also once each team is able to set up this, able to populate these, update these, and all that. We'll look at that particular chart that helps you to see the capacity that you've put up. Okay. And I think that's okay. So quickly for us to just recap, remember all the steps that we had to go through for us to do the capacity planning. We needed to know the sprint duration. We needed to list the team members and their roles, the ones that are developers, the ones that are testers. We needed to know their allocation. Is it full capacity, 100%, or is it half capacity for a borrowed resource? Okay, we need to know that. We need to know the standard working hours for a day, for a sprint. We needed to know that. And then we now started using the factors to do the calculation that we need to do. We had the varying factors, which is, the team holidays, the individual holidays, and then we have the fixed factor, which is the Scrum event and other meetings because they happen. Okay. And then we now do the calculation of our focus factor, which is the percentage that we get, and then the real capacity in order for us to know what the capacity for that sprint is. Okay, and then I've just put kind of highlight the formula here. Okay, so the sprint hours is the standard hours, which is the default distribution hours that you've been employed. Okay, so you have that times the sprint duration. Your sprint duration is 10. Your standard hours per day is 8. So if you times that, you will get what your hours is in a sprint. Okay, and then for the available capacity, you're looking at your sprint hours minus your scrum ceremonies and other ceremonies that you might have will give you your available capacity. The focus factor is a team's standard available capacity, which we've worked out from deducting the scrum ceremony and other meetings from the sprint hours. That's what gave you the available capacity. So you are looking at the team's standard available capacity, not individual now, the team standard one, okay, divided by the team standard hours times 100 would give you your focus factor in percentage. Your focus factor has to be in percentage, okay, because of that 100 that we're multiplying it with. And then your real capacity is your team members' available capacity times the focus factor would give you the real capacity for each person. And then when you add that up, you will have the team's real capacity. Okay. I think that's where we are. Get into any questions from anyone. Any questions?
Yeah, hiya, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Basically, I have a question in terms like doing this capacity plan. Is that before do I have to I just do I have to meet with the BO first so I can get the information, or it's before and the project, like at the beginning?
So your capacity happens before the sprint. So you have
Before
sprint
the
one, sprint
spring.
two, sprint three. So
Okay.
it's two to 3 days before the sprint, not at the beginning of the project. When it's not at the
Okay.
initiation phase of your project.
Phase.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and like I said, mainly is the responsibility of a scrum master, but we're making it open to everyone. You can find yourself in a situation where, like I said, yes, your scrum master has gone on holiday for 2 weeks. That 2 weeks that she's off on holiday, you have sprint planning. You won't say, oh, because she's not here to do the capacity planning and everything, I'm not going to do it. And then the sprint is loaded with work, because if she's not around, maybe your line manager is saying, oh, Marian, we need you to, step in as a scrum master, because the scrum master is off for this sprint, so you need to step in as a scrum master to help the team. So if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have an understanding of what planning a capacity is, for that one sprint, the team is going to struggle, because it's either they overcommit or they undercommit, or they have work being brought in into the sprint by the PO, which can't be controlled because it's believed that, oh, they can handle it, oh, they can handle it and all that, and they don't have the capacity to handle it.
So how the Scrum master know in terms the BO if that person put the work, how that person will know if the team is capable or not? Is
Okay, so all right, your capacity works with your velocity. Okay.
okay.
So, and that's why I said for the first one, you might not, okay, let me stop sharing. So for the first one, you might not get the team's the capacity versus the average velocity for the first sprint. So you're in the first sprint now. Okay.
Yeah.
So at the
Yeah.
end of your first sprint, your velocity chart is going to give you a number to say, oh, this is your velocity. Okay. For the
Oh,
first sprint.
mm,
Velocity chart is best used after the sixth sprint. After the sixth sprint is giving you a rhythm, okay, to
mm,
say, okay, having looked at these six sprints that you've worked on, or having looked at maybe even the second sprint, it will give you average velocity in the second sprint to say, looking at what you completed the first sprint, looking at the second sprint for this particular team, this is your average velocity. But what you need to be aware of as a scrum master, one of the things you need to be aware of when we're using your velocity is that use your velocity. Your velocity is best used when you have a fixed team composition. So if
mm,
the first sprint we have a full capacity, second sprint we have a full capacity, we're able to complete 90 story points first sprint, we're able to complete 90 story points second sprint. That chart will tell you at the third sprint your average velocity is 90. But remember
mhm.
that that average velocity is 90 because you have full capacity. And that's why you need to calculate your capacity. So that by the time we're going into the fourth or the third sprint, and it still say it, the chart will still tell you 90. Yeah. But by the time are going into that, well, you know that I don't have a full capacity. We only do 90 when we have full capacity. Because the PO will use that, will tell you that I've had a PO telling me that, oh, but the chart is saying average velocity is 104. And I'm telling
Mm,
him, yeah, 104 when we're in full capacity. But right now, half of the team members are on holiday. So
mhm,
there's no way
mhm.
we can do 104 when we're on holiday.
Okay. My
So
last
you're
question,
able to use
yeah,
that to work out and negotiate, yeah.
I understand. My last question is, in terms of do the calculation, do I have to do it manually? Or I have to do it within the project.
When I was sharing it, I said there was one of the benefits is it
Yeah,
gives you reliability, commitment reliability. Over time you would know that, okay, when we're in full capacity, averagely everyone is, when we looked at that one where there was no holiday,
yeah,
there was nobody taking holiday,
mhm,
we
mhm.
we found that per day everybody had 5.6, isn't it? And we're saying
Yeah,
approximately that would be 6
yeah,
for everyone when we're at full capacity. So if in a particular sprint you checked and everybody is full capacity, you don't need to, because you know what the calculation is when you're at full capacity. You know that everybody is a 6 when you're at full capacity.
yeah,
So you will
yeah,
just put that there. So at full capacity, everybody is 6. So in that chart, okay, Bero, if you can share your screen and let's go to the capacity page. So you will know that, okay,
Okay.
when we're at full capacity, everybody is 6. So just put 6 all the time.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
gets changed in every sprint when you look at your calendar, yeah, is the place where you put the, okay, once Bero gets there now. So if you go on your sprint,
Uh, can you see my screen?
okay, is it Marian sharing?
I'm not sure.
Marian, are you the one sharing?
No, no, that's not me. It's
Oh,
another
that's Mero. Is it Mero that is sharing?
Yeah,
I'm
Beryl
I'm
asked.
sharing.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Okay, so when you go to that capacity page, all right, you know,
Yeah.
the first time, I think really the time you want to calculate is the first one, the first ever one. That's when you need to do all that exercise that we've just done. Yeah. And
Mhm.
what that shows you is, okay, if my team, nobody goes on holiday, if I use the Scrum events and then the other meetings we have and all that, averagely everybody does is 6 hours. With our real capacity is a 6 hours per day. So for the developers, for the testers, you're putting 6 in where you have capacity per day.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Bero Adaize, is she a QA or a BA?
It's a QA.
Is a QA. Okay, if you open where you have activity,
Yeah.
activity in front of Adaize's name, there's a drop down activity before. No. Go back the
Okay.
first box. Okay, click on drop down and put testing there because she's QA. So that's testing.
Yeah.
So once you fill that with everybody, then you know
Mhm.
the people you're putting capacity in front of their name. So let's assume that capacity per day, don't fill it in so that it doesn't affect your chart or your board. So you know that, okay, it's 6. So you put 6 for every tester and developer that you have on your team. Now, if Ada is as on the spreadsheet you have, Ada is has put 2 days off, 3 days off, you know those days. Pero if you click on days, 0 days in front of Ada is,
Yeah. Days. Yeah.
click on it. Yes, just click on that. Okay, so it gives you the calendar. So you're able to look at the start day. When is the start day of a holiday? How many days
Okay.
is she taking off and everything? So we can cancel it. Let's just do one. Just to explain, just to give us, yeah. So if you click on that, it brings up the calendar for you. So let's assume that is taking on the 28th Monday, next Monday off. If you click on that, you can see it says total of 1. If it's ending on the same 28th, just click on 28 again. So if that's just the one day she's taking off, and
One
then if
day.
you click OK there,
Mhm.
you can see that it has registered 1 day off.
Yeah.
Remember that in the capacity, you've not done anything. You just put the normal 6 days, 6 hours per day there. But because
Yeah.
you've taken the day off at the back there, Azure DevOps will work out all this table that I did for us. Yeah. Azure
So
DevOps will work it
we
out.
do it automatically. I don't
We'll
need to
do
come.
it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
understand.
I did the that manual one for us so that we have
Yeah.
an understanding of what goes into
Yeah.
those
Okay.
days that
I
are reduced,
understand.
and then for us also to get at least the first capacity per day for each team members for the purpose of your internship and all that. That might be
Yeah.
different, but at least for you to have how it is out there. So the
Yeah.
first one you just need to calculate is for you to get what is um the capacity per day when there is no holiday, when we have full capacity. That is the one you always put in the box where you have capacity per day. Okay, the second box. And then the removal of holiday, bank holidays, or team members not being around is done on the days off. And then Azure DevOps calculates the whole thing out for you.
Okay, when you finished and when you're done with your capability and planning, do you send it to the project manager or to the team?
No, you don't send it to anyone.
Okay, then
That's your working to do. So if you want to be very transparent and all that, the first
yeah,
one you did that calculated that 6 hours per day and all that, if you have on your wiki, if you have your own repository, you can put it there. So if any team member is wondering, why are you giving us 6 hours per day and all that, you're able to use that chat to explain to them. your
Oh, okay, I
transform. So
understand.
you're sure everybody is seeing what you're doing. So that is just part of your own artifact as a scrum master, or if you're standing in for the scrum master. So let's assume that the scrum master has done that now in a particular in sprint one, definitely, because that is done in sprint one to get that. By the time you get into sprint two, where okay, Marianne was saying, oh, Marianne, the scrum master is sorry, has an emergency, won't be around for sprint two. You need to come in and everything and all that. What you are looking at is the spreadsheet that is on your team's channel file to say,
Mm.
to check those 2 weeks to say who is taking days off, and then using that to fill in your days off and still filling in either the 6 or the 7 in your capacity per day. And then Azure
Mm-hmm.
DevOps do the calculation. So what I've done is to do the manual calculation. While Azure DevOps, what Azure DevOps does need from you is the capacity per day, and then the days they are taking off, and then is able to calculate what your team capacity will be. After your sprint one, once you fill this in for your sprint one, at the end of your sprint one, when you go to sprint two, if I still have the time, if I don't have any other tutoring and all that, I might allow me to help us to jump on a call, do a workshop together where we'll see the charts where Azure DevOps has done the calculation of at the start of the sprint what your total capacity is and how that is going down every day.
All right, thank you very much.
You're
Miracle
welcome.
has got his hands up as well.
All right, Miracle.
Hi, Martin.
Hello.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Miracle.
I want to ask a question. Can you go to the calculations?
Okay. I don't like when I have mathematicians in the meeting. They will pick one or two.
Can I stop sharing now?
Yeah, please do. Thanks. Okay.
No,
I'm
it's
sure
not
I
like
have
that.
made some mathematical error that Miracle wants to
No,
pick up now.
no, it's not even that outside. I just want to
Just
ask
check.
a question based
All
on
right.
what's
Where do you want me to go back to?
the first, not no, the calculation.
Okay. The first calculation.
Yeah, the first one.
Okay.
Go the next one.
The next one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this one. Yes, no. Yeah, this one. Now, my
Okay.
question is, what if everybody take a day off? At least a day off.
At least a day off. Yeah.
Yes.
It will still come into things.
So what will
So
you
somebody that has taken a day off here, two people that took just one day off apart from the bank holiday is Michael and Chris. If we go back to let's go back to where they've taken those days off. I think they are the ones that took just one day off. Am I right?
So
Or they even
Michael,
took half day off, not even one day. So yeah. So I think Mary took a day off. So that would be 64. So if everybody took at least one day off, what you will have for everybody, because we have to factor in the bank holiday also, everybody will be at that 64. So you have 64, 64, 64, 64, and that's what we'll add together to
no,
come
no,
to
no, no.
what they have.
You didn't get my question.
Okay.
Now go to the calculation. Let me ask.
All right.
Let me see if I can explain it. Wow.
This one.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now you used for the team standard available capacity, you used 59, which was John and Gerard,
Mhm.
because I didn't take any day off.
Mhm.
Now, if assuming John and Gerard take a day off,
Mhm.
excluding that bank holiday,
Mhm.
what will you use for the team standard available capacity?
It will still be 72 that we'll be using. So when you're doing your available capacity, actually what you want to know is how would we work out the focus factor? Because the focus factor is the one where we use the 72, the 59 here. Yeah, that's what you're looking at,
Okay.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So even if John has taken day off and he has reduced and this and all that, we'll still be using 59. You know why? Because it's with 59. When you're calculating your focus factor, if there's a bank holiday, it has nothing to do with the team. Okay, so they didn't ask for that holiday to
Oh,
come.
okay.
Yeah, the organization gave them or the government gave them that holiday, so that doesn't come into effect. The one that affects each person is the day, your own annual leave that you've taken off, not the bank holiday. So we would have still used 72 to deduct the Scrum event ceremony, the other meetings, and still come to this 58.75 and still be able to approximate to say 59 approximately to do our calculation for us to get our focus factor.
So
So it
what
wasn't
you
because they didn't take any day off. It was because that is what we would have used. That's the standard hours we would have used. Just removing the bank holiday, the eight hours bank holiday away from it. And that was why I had that question coming some few years back. And that was why I included this in the calculation to say this is for a team where there was no bank holiday, there was no days taken off. And you can see that if we use that, there was no 72 here, is the whole 80 we're using here, it will come to 84. But because of the one day bank holiday, that was why this came to 74. So we're not basing it on John because he didn't take any day off and all that. It has nothing to do with that. It's because the 80, we need to remove that bank holiday of 8 hours. And if we remove that 8 hours and we still deduct the Scrum event and other meetings, that's when we'll come to the approximation of the 59 approximately to do our calculation.
okay.
Yeah.
Noted. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Right.
Can I stop
Any
the
other
recording now?
question? Yes, please. You can stop the recording. I think everyone.